There were three main types of sessions and three, I'd say, key sessions that helped me build my half marathon to 1 hour 30 and 38 seconds at 98 kilos. And bear in mind, in this time, I had a heart condition that stopped me running at any high intensity. In this video, I want to break down my training overview from the foundations, the key sessions, my monthly structure and volume, my fueling strategies, my biggest mistakes and learnings that I will make sure I take into the next race, and also what I feel was probably the secret sauce to really building to this race performance. Hi, my name is Rob, and I've gone from being more of a strength athlete to now a triathlete, which would probably be classed as a hybrid athlete now. And I coach people to build bodies that are strong, fit, and built to last. So here's a brief understanding of where I've come from. So since October last year, I hired a coach to help me with my triathlon training. So I went with Rosie from the Tri Guys, and we had 4 races in the calendar. We had the Hackney Half Marathon, we had the Ironman Swansea 70.3, we had the T100 Olympic distance in London, and now the full distance Ironman in Wales. So once we had those 4 races in the diary, we gave priorities to all of them, and the A races, so the main races, were going to be the 2 Ironman races, so the 70.3 and the full distance. The Hackney Half was just going to be for some fun, and the Olympic distance triathlon was originally going to be my last race of the season, just to kind of like just send it, but now that's going to be in between the 70.3 and the full distance. So after the first few months of training, we started to realize that I started to get these running legs. I started to run pretty well, and like the paces started to increase quite quickly, and I started to be able to withstand quite a lot of stress through running and be able to actually perform pretty well as well, especially being a heavier guy, sitting at around 100 kilos at the time, so about 220 pounds. So at the back end of last year, I started to get some really bad SVT issues with my heart. So that's where my heart rate would go right up to around the 200 to 220 beats a minute and just stay there. It was absolutely trashing me. If you want to know more about that, you can click on this video here, and that will take you to my playlist of where the experience of the SVT, and then my recent surgery that I had where I had the ablation, which was a wild experience. Now, what I was finding with the SVT is after any type of hill sprints or some VO2 sessions, my heart just really didn't like that, and I nearly always a day or two later end up having one of those SVT episodes. So what we did, we removed those type of sessions altogether and kind of just left me with essentially threshold and easy running. But then there was this one run which really kind of brought both mine and my coach's eyes towards the thought of maybe pushing the half marathon, and that was a progressive long run. And I managed to PB my half marathon just out of the blue. And in this run, there was kind of like slow paces, harder paces, and then just rest periods. So with all this, I took my half marathon time from 2 hours or 1 hour 59 down to 1 hour 44 and 58 seconds, I believe it was. So we was like, oh, so we've taken 15 minutes off and we haven't even tried. Let's maybe revisit this half marathon and maybe turn it into a bit of an A race. So now, as I mentioned, because we couldn't do any VO2 style sessions or any hill sprints, we were just stuck with basically like threshold sessions and aerobic sessions and like progressive long runs. So let's dive into those key sessions. So my key sessions were mainly threshold sessions and the progressive long run. And these 2 types of sessions really helped me build my tolerance at paces that felt pretty uncomfortable. So in the 12 weeks leading up to the half marathon, here are 3 of the key sessions that were probably my favorite sessions, which I felt really helped me move the needle physically, but also mentally. So session 1 was a 3 rounds of a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 minute effort with a 1 minute recovery between all of those efforts. So you'd go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 minutes, and then you'd go back to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And all of those efforts were done at the same pace, so they were done at a 4:30 per kilometer pace. Now, what I really loved about these sessions was they kept you really present because there was only a minute rest in between each block. It was kind of like, right, I'm about to get back into it. And then where I really felt the best part, like the challenge, was when you then do the 1 minute effort, have the 1 minute rest, and then got to go back to the 5 minute effort. That was mentally a real good challenge because you had to tell yourself, right, you've now got to go back to that for 5 minutes. So you have to push when you're tired. And when you're running a hard race, you need to kind of get into that discomfort and be able to withstand it. And sometimes you have to then push a little bit faster if you kind of fell behind. So this was session 1 of 3 of my favorite key threshold sessions. One of my second favorites was actually quite a progressive one, where the best one was where I did 3 lots of 12 minutes at a 4:25 pace with a 3-minute light jog in between. Now, I like these workouts because I progressed them from, say, 5 rounds of 6 minutes, 4 rounds of 8 minutes, 4 rounds of 10 minutes, 3 rounds of 12 minutes. And not only did I then progress the time, over the weeks I also then progressed the pacing, so I got faster for longer. So what these sessions did was really help me build some confidence in one, kind of finding a consistent rhythm when you're tired, but also finding that good cadence, but also then finding a good breathing pattern. Because for me, being able to breathe and fully oxygenate my body, I've got a lot of mass I'm carrying, so I'm going to require a lot of oxygen. So I want to make sure I have a nice consistent rhythm so my body can kind of get into a zone that I can just keep repeating the same thing over and over. So session 3 of my favorite key threshold sessions has to be 2x6K. Now, I actually failed this work, so I performed this workout 3 times and I failed it twice. Now, where I went with this, so the workout itself was I had a warm up and cool down of about 2K and I think a cool down of about 2K. Had 6K twice and then a kilometer in the middle where it was slightly slower than my 6K effort. Now, the first time I did this workout, I did it at a 4:35 pace for those 6Ks. I actually failed it. And I think a big part of failing this workout was because I'd just been ill and I tried to then go back into with intensity and I just didn't quite have that extra gear. So I failed the workout, kind of said, fine, it is what it is. And we then repeated it the following week. Now, the following week I repeated it and I did successfully do it at that 4:35 pace. However, it was extremely hot. And even though I completed it, it really took its toll on my body because I underfueled and I underhydrated and just felt terrible. So I ticked the box, but it really wasn't a successful session, I say. Even though I did complete it, the success would have been the lessons that I learned from it, which is kind of a good thing. Now, the last time I did it, I failed it again, but I discussed with my coach that I was kind of having this thought that I'd be able to get like a 1:30 to a 1:35 half. I was feeling really good. So what we decided to try those 2 6K efforts at the half marathon pace of 4 minutes 15. So just think, I've just done it at 4:35 and just about did it. And then a couple of weeks later, I'm trying to perform it again, but now 20 seconds faster. So at a 4:15 per kilometer pace, which will then give you the half marathon time of 1 hour 30. Now I failed the run, even though I hit the first 6K, felt really good in that 6K, but I got to the second one and pretty much hit the 3K mark and just fell off a cliff. But again, I think this was a heat issue, an overheating issue, and kind of a hydration issue. So we took it as a lesson learned, and it was like, right, is there the confidence? To be honest with you, I didn't have the confidence. My coach then actually said, no, you got it. We're going to absolutely smash it. So she kind of filled me with a bit more confidence. Obviously, thankfully, I still went in with the mindset of, I'm just going to run as hard as I can for as long as I can. And when I say hard as I can, I was going to run at a 4:15 or below as much as I can for as long as I can. And then in my head, I was going to get to about 10K probably, fall off, and then just have to try and suffer and then hold on for like a 1:35. Now let's move on to the progressive long runs and long runs. These runs were great for kind of accumulating time on feet and getting me comfortable fueling the runs, kind of feeling what it feels like running for that long. And as a whole, I have to train my gut, especially when you're running, say, for an hour and a half to 2 hours, say, you need to be able to be fueled in those sessions. So you need to make sure your gut can withstand that kind of fueling. So these were awesome sessions. One, to obviously build that fitness, but also to kind of train my gut. Now, the 3 sessions that for me were real highlight sessions. The first one was when I hit my first half marathon PB of a 1 hour 44 and 55 seconds. And this one was a 30-minute warm up at 5:25 per kilometer. And then I went into a main block of 15 minutes at 4:45, 30 minutes at 5:05, and then back to 15 minutes at 4:45, and then finished off with a 20-minute cool down at 5:05. And this workout felt fantastic. And yeah, I PB'd then my half marathon. I was like, whoa, this is fantastic. I've gone from a 1:59.58 or whatever it was down to a 1:44. I was buzzing. And then the following week, I then hit a 1 hour 52, just running in 2 hours easy. So again, I was over the moon. But if I had to put like two of my most favorite runs, that was a great one because it's a real tick box. But two of my favorite runs have to be like where I'm working like 10-minute blocks. Session 1, which was around an hour, so I wouldn't really class it as a long run per se, but I had 25 minutes at 5:15 per kilometer. And then I did a progressive 10-minute block. So I did 10 minutes at 4:55 per kilometer, 10 minutes at 4:35 per kilometer, 10 minutes at 4:30 per kilometer, and then 10 minutes at 4:20 per kilometer, and then finish with 5 minutes at 5:30 just to cool down. So I wouldn't really class it as a long run, but it was kind of like a progressive tempo session, which I really, really enjoyed. And then my final long run of my half marathon build was probably like the session, the one that I was just like, I've got this. And not necessarily because I was running super fast, but because of how confident I felt on that run. And that run was 10 minutes at 5 minutes per kilometer. Then I did 4 rounds of 10 minutes at 4:40 per kilometer, and then 10 minutes at 4:55 per kilometer, which then finished me on 18.6k, which then also gave me my fastest ever 10 miles of 1 hour 17 minutes, which was then at a 4:48 pace. So I was feeling really confident. And when it comes to going into race days, having confidence that you can perform is a big part of it, because even all the fitness that we do beforehand, we need to know that we can actually execute when it comes to race day. So these sort of long runs kind of build that confidence that when you get to race day, you're like, I know what it feels like, I can do this. Now, when it comes to my weekly running structure, I had 3 runs a week. So I had my tempo/threshold style session on a Monday. That was always on a Monday, so I always started the week with some running intensity. And then I'd have an easy run and either a long run or a progressive long run. And those two were like interchangeable based on like childcare, clients and stuff like that. So on a Thursday, I'd do either an easy run or a long run, and on a Saturday, I'd do an easy run or a long run. So see how it went. Now those easy runs would always be for an hour, maybe up to 70 minutes, but I just always kind of accumulated about 11 to 12k at a nice easy pace. So when it comes to the monthly running volume, this was quite interesting because I hadn't actually looked back to see how much I ran. So in January, I ran 142k. February, it went up to 154k. March went up to 159k, so not that much more. April tapered back a bit to 110k. I did have some heart issues in April, which kind of affected my running because I then wasn't able to get out running as much because it was causing me some issues. And then May was down at 95.7k. And that was with, obviously, the race day was then towards the middle of the month. So back end of that, I barely did any running after that because I was kind of letting the body recover and I had my surgery. Now let's talk fueling strategy. This was pretty simple, but very, very consistent. And I think that was a really key part of what gave me a successful fueling strategy. Now, breaking this down into my like pre-run, my intra workout, so my while I was running, and then the post-workout. Pre would nearly always be my overnight collagen oats. So I'd always make with about 100 grams of oats, about 20 grams of collagen, some cinnamon, some almond milk or some normal milk, depends on what we have, some Greek yogurt and some raisins, topped with some honey and peanut butter. Now that was pretty much my staple breakfast for the whole 12 weeks, and it still pretty much is now. Now, when it comes to the running itself, so my intra workout, I built my tolerance up from 60 grams an hour all the way up to 90 grams an hour. So when I was at the 60 grams amount, I was taking in 30 grams at 15 minutes into the run, and then 30 grams at 45 minutes. On the bike, I'll be taking in, say, 90 grams or more because there's less stress on the gut and I was able to kind of digest it a bit better. So I wanted to kind of build my tolerance up towards 90. So I did manage to do that. So now I take 30 grams every 20 minutes, or because I make my own gels, I just take a big mouthful, and then whatever's left, and then finish off at that hour mark. And now if you want to know how to make those homemade gels, you can click the video here and it'll take you straight to there. And then my post-workout was pretty much a staple, which was Tom Parker's chocolate milk. And I'd either have the small bottle or the big bottle. So the small bottle was about 330 ml, the big bottle was half a litre. And the main reason for Tom Parker was because it had the least amount of crap in it. Now, the main reason for Tom Parker chocolate milk is because it had the least amount of extra ingredients. It was pretty much just milk, cane sugar, and cacao. So like those three ingredients, that was it. So it really sat well with my stomach, and it was always something to really look forward to post-run. Now, my biggest mistakes and learnings that I'll make sure that I'm prepped for before I go into my next race was, performance-wise, I believe, since my goal was a 1 hour 30 half marathon, I should have probably paced more off of like a 1:25 or maybe like a 1:27. Now, the main reason for that is because with the watches, they can kind of mess up with the GPS. And I base my running all off of my watch, and I apparently finished the half marathon in 1 hour 29 and 29 seconds. But the chip time was 1 hour 30 and 38 seconds. So I thought I'd already created a bit of a buffer, but clearly it wasn't enough. So I do need to run even faster if I want to kind of make sure I get in that window. But what would be even better was if I ran with the paces. So there was 1 hour 30 paces, which I should have ran with. But the lesson that I would learn from there is when you're in the starting pen, I'd make sure I get closer towards the front where those 1 hour 30 paces went into, so that I could get there. Because when I started my run, I tried to catch up with them, but they were too far ahead. So I would have burnt too many matches and I wouldn't have been able to sustain that pace to catch them. So I just left them and kind of, as I said, based it all on the watch. So they're kind of like two lessons in one. And now a second or third lesson, depends how you want to view it. This is kind of a running related one and kind of not. So I needed to be more diligent with my brick runs. So the brick runs are where you run off the bike. So you're going to do a bike session, and with triathlon you then go into a run. So I had some brick sessions in my training where I do a hard bike and then I should go into an easy run at around a 5 to 5:30 pace. Now, because I wasn't always diligent and sometimes I felt really good, I'll be running at closer to like a 4:15 to 4:30 pace. And that was just too fast. Because then what that then done, on one of my runs in particular, I was running down the high street, was going to cross a road, so I turned right and then I turned left. And as I turned left, my right foot didn't go with me, it planted and then rolled to the outside. And now when I had it scanned, I can see a bit of bone fragment floating in my ankle, and it still causes me pain to this day. And that's 6 weeks ago. And so I had to obviously strap that up when it comes to race day itself, because it was causing me so much pain. And then that then caused an issue on my left knee because my running gait changed. So yeah, if I would have been more diligent with my brick runs, I wouldn't have got that injury most likely. So yeah, if you are training for a triathlon, treat your brick runs as they should. Don't necessarily run so hard. So kind of leads into this last one, which is make sure when you have your easy runs, they are actually easy, and don't push them just to kind of tick the ego box and feel good. Keep them easy so you're accumulating that volume. Don't make the mistake that I did. Now, here's the secret sauce that I believe was a thing that really improved my race performance. Now, as a strength coach, you probably think I'm going to say strength training was the main thing. I'm going to say, even though I do feel having stronger muscles, stronger ligaments and tendons, and just having a stronger structure as a whole definitely helped me create force and power when it comes to running, that's not what I feel was the key driver to improve my fitness. I believe the reason where I was able to accumulate all this extra fitness and then able to express it in the half marathon was all the bike training I was doing. Now, with my bike training in particular, I took my FTP, so my functional threshold power, what you could essentially hover about an hour, I took that from 280, I think it was, at around October, up to now, I hit a 300 or 301 in an FTP test, and then we upped my watts, and I've been training at 320 watts for the past probably like 3 months. So I've been pushing the power there. Now, in particular, I've been then doing threshold and sweet spot sessions where you're sitting at like a decent, say like 280 to 290 watts, holding that for like 15, 20, 30 minutes at a time. So really getting uncomfortable. And this was a real issue for me when I very first started the training. I was really good at VO2 sessions, especially coming from a strength background. I was able to really put force down, short, sharp, hard efforts, but being able to sustain it for long periods of time was a huge weakness. So we put a lot of focus into that, and I feel when it comes to the running, when it starts to hurt, especially going up hills, I was able to lean into that discomfort because I knew as long as I get to the top of the hill, it then gets easy. So I kind of gave this like narrative in my head: if you're gonna slow down or if you're gonna give up on a flat or a downhill. Do not give up on an uphill. Run the slopes and then cruise down. And if you need to stop or slow, that's when you do it, because everyone wants to stop on the ups or slow down on the ups. So go against the grain and work hard. And then on top of that, obviously doing longer, like 2 to 3 hour easy bike sessions where I'm just accumulating aerobic fitness. I really feel that that bike has been my absolute like key thing at building my aerobic fitness, because as a heavier runner, if I do more running volume, it can definitely pay off, and I will definitely look to explore that route going into the back end of the year and then into the new year. But for now, because I'm a heavier runner, more stress goes through my body every step that I take. So I could negate that altogether and just increase my bike volume where I still get that aerobic capacity, but without the stress on my body. So yeah, that's the secret sauce, I believe. Now, in summary, I'm obviously prepping for a full distance Ironman. So I was already training to be very aerobic. So I do feel all of this has kind of added to the ability to kind of put this kind of performance out. And next year, I do plan on running even faster. I want to be aiming more towards that 120 to 125 sort of bracket. But we'll kind of see, and we'll deal with that at the back end of the year. But the fact that I've got all this Ironman fitness that I'm building, it just means I'm getting like 6 to 7 aerobic sessions a week on the bike and the run, not counting the swimming. So the bike and the run, 6 to 7 sessions a week of aerobic volume. And when you listen to any like seasoned runner, you hear them just talk about that consistency of just getting in the volume, getting in the work. And we do need to kind of take into consideration the frames. As I said, being a heavier runner, I do need to take into consideration I might not be able to run 4 to 5 times a week, or maybe even more. I kind of have to progressively get towards that, but it's definitely something to take into consideration if you can't necessarily do that at the moment, or if you're a bit of a bigger person yourself. Now, I'm also really happy because all of this was done with this slight noise in the back of my head, like, is your heart gonna go? Are you gonna have these SVT issues after this run? And the fact that I've now had my SVT ablation surgery, which if you want to see the video, you can see that here, it fills me with confidence going into my Ironman block, knowing that I'll be able to kind of push the paces once my body's recovered, because I've already started to kind of prep myself now, getting myself ready for that. And I've already kind of hit a little roadblock because I think I've started to increase the volume a little bit too much in my running, a bit too quickly, but I'll address that in my next video, which is a full week of training. So you guys kind of catch that then. And then I also feel lastly, a big part that kind of led to me being able to like perform outside of myself was having that accountability. And the fact that I had a coach that, you know, she believed in me and kind of wanted me to do the performance that I did, and she kind of backed me. It gave me that little bit of extra confidence going into it. And as I said in my half marathon video, I had periods throughout that run where I then, you know, I prayed, I spoke to God, and I asked him for strength if he felt that I needed it or if I deserved it. And there was times throughout the run where I did feel weightless, where I did feel like I was being carried. So it was a very surreal experience, and I'm very grateful for that experience. So thanks for watching. I hope this video gave you some value and some ideas. If you do want to talk about any coaching or anything like that, you can click the first link in the description. But for now, I'll see you in the next video.